In the long story of human history, few names are as unforgettable as Alexander the Great. Born in 356 BCE in Pella, the capital of Macedonia, Alexander was destined to change the world. From his father, King Philip II, he inherited military genius and ambition. From his tutor, Aristotle, he absorbed philosophy and vision. From Homer's heroes, he drew inspiration to seek eternal glory. By the time he was 30, Alexander had marched across Asia, defeated the mighty Persian Empire, founded cities, and built an empire stretching from Greece to Egypt and beyond. Yet his true test of bravery came in 326 BCE, far from home, on the banks of the Hydaspes River in India, where he faced King Porus and his terrifying army of war elephants. This battle became one of Alexander's most legendary demonstrations of courage, not just in fighting, but in leadership, respect, and vision. After conquering Persia, many might have rested satisfied. But Alexander's ambition was different. He dreamed of reaching the ends of the earth and uniting East and West. His march brought him into lands unknown to the Greeks, jungles, strange rivers, and people who had never heard of Macedonia. Word spread of Indian kings who commanded armies unlike anything Alexander had faced. The most formidable among them was Porus, ruler of the Punjab region. Tall, strong, and proud, Porus commanded thousands of soldiers and, most fearsome of all, war elephants. To the Macedonians, who had never fought elephants, these beasts seemed unstoppable. The Hydaspes River, modern Jhelum, separated the two armies. It was in flood, deep and fast, and Porus's army stood ready on the far bank. A direct crossing would have been suicide. Here Alexander's bravery showed itself not only in battle but in planning. For days he marched his troops along the riverbank, making feints as though preparing to cross, while Porus shadowed him on the opposite side. Then, on a stormy night, with thunder rolling and rain falling, Alexander made his move. He led a picked force of cavalry and infantry across the river, several miles upstream. The crossing was dangerous. Boats rocked in the current, men slipped, some drowned. But Alexander himself was in the lead, encouraging his soldiers with his presence. By dawn, they were on the far bank, ready to fight. Porus quickly brought his army to meet the invaders. His battle line was massive, cavalry on the flanks, infantry in the center, and more than 200 elephants, forming a terrifying wall. The ground shook as the beasts advanced, their tusks capped with iron, their riders ready with bows and spears. For the Macedonians, it was like facing monsters from myth. Horses panicked at the sight and smell of elephants. Soldiers shrank at the thought of being trampled. But Alexander rode among them on his warhorse Bucephalus, fearless and commanding. He reminded his soldiers that they had defeated impossible odds before. The Persian hordes at Issus and Gaugamela, the harsh deserts of Gedrosia, the mountain tribes of Central Asia. Today, he told them, we fight not only for victory, but for eternal glory. His words steadied their hearts. The battle was brutal. The elephants charged into the Macedonian phalanx, crushing men beneath their feet, tossing them aside with their trunks. The air filled with screams, arrows, and the thunder of hooves. Alexander himself rode straight into the thick of battle. Leading cavalry charges, he darted between elephants, spearing enemy riders, slashing at foes, and narrowly avoiding tusks. His courage was not from behind the lines, but in the very heart of danger. At one point, when his right flank faltered under the elephants' assault, Alexander personally led a charge to rally them. His men saw him risking his life as if he were one of them, and their fear turned to determination. Hours passed, and slowly, Alexander's strategy began to work. His cavalry encircled Porus's flanks, harassing them with speed and discipline. The elephants, wounded and panicked, began turning on their own side, trampling Porus's soldiers. The tide shifted. Finally, Porus's army broke. Porus himself, however, did not flee. Wounded but proud, he remained atop his elephant, still commanding until the last. When at last he was surrounded, he was brought before Alexander. The conqueror, instead of gloating, looked upon the tall, noble king with admiration. He asked Porus how he wished to be treated. Porus replied with simple dignity, "Like a king." Alexander was so impressed by his bravery and spirit that he not only spared Porus but restored him to his throne, and even granted him more territory. To Alexander, true greatness was not merely in defeating enemies, but in honoring those who showed courage. The Battle of the Hydaspes was not Alexander's largest or bloodiest victory, but it was one of his bravest. Here, he faced an unknown enemy with terrifying weapons. He led from the front, showing no fear before elephants that could crush him at any moment. He turned panic into courage by his example. And in victory, he showed another form of bravery, the strength to respect and honor a worthy enemy. For his soldiers, this battle proved that their king was not only a commander, but the bravest warrior among them. For history, it symbolized Alexander's ability to face the impossible and emerge victorious. Alexander the Great's life was filled with acts of courage, crossing mountains, enduring deserts, defeating empires. But his confrontation with Porus at the Hydaspes River remains the clearest window into his bravery. It was not only the courage to fight, but the courage to lead, to endure, and to honor. He faced monstrous elephants without flinching, inspired his men by sharing their dangers, and respected his defeated foe as a king. More than 2,000 years later, we still remember this moment, not just as a battle, but as a story of what true bravery means. And that is why history calls him not just Alexander, but Alexander the Great.